Hi, my name is Łukasz.
And my name is Pablo Galindo.
And this is the Core.py podcast, an established podcast where we discuss internals of CPython and our adventures in making a new version of your favorite programming language. This week, the adventure brought us to surprisingly sunny Bellevue, Washington, to the offices of Meta, where we are a part of the annual Core Developer Sprint. This one in particular is the largest one with the most attendees we have ever seen in this invite-only event.
Yeah, 30-something people.
Yeah, like we might give you a more concrete number once the dust has settled. People have been coming and going all week. There was plenty of interaction. So the idea for this episode in particular is to actually hear from some of those attendees themselves. We found that, letting them speak is a more effective and fun way to learn what they were working on. So we're going to be doing that.
Right. And one of the things that we wanted to do, before anything, Łukasz, think about what this means. This means that Core.py has been alive for a year, right? Our first episode was a virtual year. I don't know the actual date when we started, airing an episode, but the original episode, if our listeners remember, was the Core Dev Sprint of...
In Brno.
Exactly, right. And now we're here again, so, nice for us. Self-congratulatory, inserts are
amazing.
The best. Amazing.
Yeah. There were many things that I tried to make my habit, and they did not survive 12 months. So go us. We are actually doing this for 1 year. So okay,
we tolerate each other.
Yes.
What is this? What is this? What is going on? What is going on? Oh man! Okay. This is amazing. This is amazing.
We have been invaded.
My heart is just. I'm always going to cry, man. This man.
It's literally. I literally see it's bananas.
This is bananas. Man. Oh my God! Wait a second. I need to compose myself.
All right. What we're seeing is a cake. And that cake has a logo, and it has the one, because now we're 1 year old.
Man, but Jesus Christ, this is the best thing I have ever seen. I have several family members that have made me gift all of my life, but this is so personalized and concrete. There is a small Łukasz Langa and Pablo Galindo, and there is a banana. So there is this cake. Okay, so I have in front of me a cake that I cannot wait to just eat. This looks fantastic. And then there's a Core.py logo, bananas, bananas cut out for the. This is banana. There's even hemos sido engañado which I think it is the original is the original meme from the wall in Spain. Man, this is so ridiculous. It looks and there is a little headphones
and the mic.
And there is one because 1 year.
Yes.
Man, how do you know? We were literally just saying that we realized that this is the 1 year anniversary. Man, is it so?
Wow. So that.
Oh man, thank you very much, man. Itamar, please join us. We have here Itamar. I'm going to start talking so Łukasz just switch because we have just two mics.
Yes. So I'm interviewing Itamar, who is with us. Thank you very much for the cake. That's amazing.
You're welcome.
How do you feel after 5 days of cat herding? Almost 40 people here.
Surprisingly good.
Right? Yeah. I did that 8 years back, and I remember it was extremely stressful to actually make sure everybody gets in where they should be and they don't get where they shouldn't be, because then they will lock themselves out. So how did that all work out for you?
Pretty good, actually. I didn't get any complaints about people ending up in the wrong places.
Nice.
So that's good. You're very well behaved.
Oh, at least we tried. We weren't always successful, but we tried. It's also the biggest sprint we've organized so far in terms of attendees, right? You probably know this. We couldn't really figure out what was the exact number of attendees. Do you know?
For this sprint,
yes.
We had 41.
41. So like over 40 attendees. The first one I ran at Facebook back in 2016 was 26 people. So this one, way larger. Nice.
How big was the one last year?
Oh, last year, I don't know about this one at Red Hat, but the European ones are usually smaller ones, right? Comparatively, around 30 probably, yes. Because not all of us will cross across the pond. We Europeans do that because we do that all the time. But people from America, they're like a little more selective. They don't like crummy Europe for whatever reason. I don't know.
We're more spoiled.
Possibly, like with the weather in Bellevue now, like I'm not believing any of those stories that it rains here all the time.
You were here yesterday, right?
It rained just a little for flavor, I think, for flavor. We had like a kind of meta-organized dinner yesterday in Kirkland, which
Yes.
I actually learned is actually that place from which the brand from Costco comes from. Because this is where Costco comes from. And we walked from there, like Pablo, Yury, and I, back to the hotel, which was almost 8 kilometers. Americans claimed it's impossible to walk 8 kilometers. But
No, it's 5 miles.
It's 5 miles. You know what the trick is? It's Fibonacci numbers, right? Yeah. 5 miles, it's 8 kilometers.
So for everyone that has not been following like that long core development, we are in this room 3 organizers of sprints right now, right? Because like I organized the Bloomberg one, you organized like the Meta one back in the day, and Itamar the Facebook
Instagram
one.
one.
The Instagram one. Okay. And then the Facebook one. Okay, double organizer. Okay, excuse me, princess. But Itamar now is organizing the Meta one. So this is dear listener, this is not easy. It's not an easy feat. So what was the I keep looking at this cake and I'm just like it's going to make me cry. It's like it's emotional damage. emotional damage. So what was your the thing that surprised you the most, that for better, for good or for bad? Like what was the hardest thing that you find out, or something that you thought like, wow, that was much easier than I thought it was going to be?
The hardest thing was having the breakfast and lunch at the first day and having not enough food. I don't know if you noticed, but we got it fixed for the second day and beyond that.
Well, I have to say something. So apart from the breakfast any other day, really good. Like I really enjoy it. But like the first day, because this particular lack of breakfast, especially at like late hours, some Meta employees went with us with the bigger part of the office when there is like the huge cafeteria, and they have a waffle machine, but not one of like these puny like small waffle machines. No, man, like an industrial one, like serious waffles. And then you have this like enormous piece of like waffle machine, and then you put your waffle thingies, and you wait for 3 minutes, and you have one of the best waffles that I have. Like that's my particular highlight of this sprint. Like that stupid waffle machine, man. I dream with that waffle machine. Like I said, like wow, that was a good waffle.
All right, so I guess we're gonna get now to the actual interviews with core developers. Thanks very much for organizing this, Itamar.
Of course, my pleasure.
Just in time.
Hi there. Can you state your name and say what you have been working on this week?
Hello, my name is Brandt Bucher, and this week I've been working on the just-in-time compiler that we talked about a couple episodes ago.
Surprise.
Yeah. My favorite kind of thing that came out of this week was I led a discussion yesterday on sort of the path forward for the JIT compiler, and some cool things came out of that, like making it easier for people to build the JIT compiler themselves by not requiring an LLVM install, hopefully in the near future, and then the possibility, it looks like it's probably going to happen, of being able to ship the JIT in the Python 3.14 alphas at least, off by default, but where it can be enabled with an environment variable. So that way a lot more people actually get the chance to play with this thing.
Right, cool.
Yeah.
And also to build possibly a JIT without having to install LLVM?
Yes, yeah. So basically, LVM is used at build time to generate a bunch of templates that the JIT uses. And the idea is that it's similar to compiled C extensions, like when you download a wheel from PyPI, like you don't actually need to rebuild it yourself. You just need to trust that like it's been compiled correctly for that platform. We can do something similar where we generate the stencils for a bunch of different platforms and actually check those into the repository. And so that way, if you are on one of those platforms on a build that doesn't have wonky configuration, that everything should just work without you needing to install anything or wait for it to build or any of that.
What I've heard, this highlight for me was your offhand comment about the performance improvements so far.
Yes. So in the last year, we've gone from 0% slower with the JIT enabled to now 0% faster.
All right, and on that positive note, thanks, Brandt.
Thank you.
Hi there. Can you say your name and what your highlight of the week was?
Okay, so my name is Tian, and full name Tian Gao, and I majorly work on PDB, as I always do. I did had some prototypes of some new features that are interesting of PDB. First of all, I'm working on displaying some async IO related stuff in PDB, so that when you are debugging your async programs, you can see a lot more information of async IO related thing. And probably in the future, you can switch between tasks and see their call stack and local variables on each task. That's one thing. And I had another prototype for the sysdot monitoring. So PDB is slow, and when you set a breakpoint somewhere, and it will slow down the whole program when you run it. And I had a talk in PyCon this year, talking about how we can use sysdot monitoring to replace the current mechanism. And there were some backward compatibility issues, but I solved those. So I had a prototype that is fully backward compatible, and it's opt-in, so that you can just choose not to use it. And if you opt in, it will be much, much faster than the previous PDB. And I have high hopes for this one, so hopefully it can be merged in.
Sounds exciting. Thank you, Tian. All right, cool. We reached a point of no return. The amount of release managers in the room is reaching critical levels. We have Hugo van Kemenade with us. So release managers of Pythons 3.8, 3.9, 3.10, 3.11, and 3.14 and 3.15. So the future. Hi, Hugo. What have been you working on here in Bellevue?
Well, one thing is I've submitted my calendar versioning PEP. So the 3.15 might not happen if that gets accepted.
What does that mean? What does that mean?
So it means that we would be using the year for the second bit. So instead of 3.15, we'd put the year in the 3. Something. So if we release in 2026, we get 3.26.
3.26. So what's the PEP number?
2026.
PEP 2026. All right. When did you submit this to the steering council?
I submitted it yesterday on the 26th of September. And at 10:26 our time, which was actually 20:26 Helsinki time where I live.
Well, let's hope that works in your favor when we're adopting this PEP. So what this is gonna do to Python? Like how is this improving our lives?
Well, at the moment the kind of version doesn't really say much. So every year we just bump the second digit, the minor.
Yeah.
And it doesn't really mean anything. People sometimes think we use semantic versioning, we don't. But I think it'll just improve quality of life. So like for deprecations and things, instead of now it'll say that this feature is deprecated and it will be removed in Python 3.16. Then when is that going to happen? Like we're release managers, we should have an idea of when that is, but you have to kind of think, so, well, 13 is released this year, 16 is in 3 more years. But if we deprecate it in 3.26, say, or 28, then you know that, okay, I've got, 4 years before this actually goes away. I can plan my work.
So less math to do.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Right. Hugo, so with the release manager work that you are doing, when is the Alpha 1 of 3.14 coming out?
In about 2 weeks, so the 15th of October.
Okay, so you're starting to actually do the deed. How are you feeling about this?
Well, I mean, people are saying, how's it going as release manager? And I've not had to do anything yet, so it's going fine.
All right.
But I've done a test release to check that all the tooling and permissions are in place, and it was working, yeah. So the files ended up on the server, like in my home folder. So, yeah.
Right, cool. So like this is like now a European gig. You're in Finland, I'm in Poland, Pablo is in London, and Thomas is in Amsterdam. So do you have any intuition whether like we can keep our European domination for 327 and 328?
Why not, yeah?
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see what
The American mind cannot comprehend this.
There were times when there were concerns that like you cannot bring it out of the United States because everybody needs to be in the same time zone. And now it turns out we are not. Finland is in Eastern European.
Yeah.
Yeah, like me and Thomas are in the same time zone, which is also ridiculous because there is over 1,000 kilometers between us. And then British Standard Time, that's London. So yeah, we can do time zones also in Europe. Most people don't think about it, but we do. All right. And on that positive note, thanks for coming, Hugo.
Thank you.
Cool. So we're here with Thomas Wow-ters. The
Wow-ters.
one and only. What?
Wow-ters.
Jesus, I have been saying this wrong all the time.
Everyone does. That's fine.
Wow-ters. Like wow-ters.
Yes, exactly.
Nice. So as Łukasz like to say, we are a critical mass of release managers now. Like actually consecutive versions now instead of like a big gap in the middle. 3, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12.
And 13.
And 13. Yeah. So what do you think about the release? How it's going?
It was going really good until the start of this week, and then we discovered all these horrible bugs that we need to fix between the second release candidate and the final version, which philosophically my body rejects. But at the same time, they're bugs we need to fix, and we don't have time for another release candidate. So,
I hope not in PyRebel.
Yes, even in PyRebel.
Oh,
you
no.
know.
Even in PyRebel.
Yes.
Yes, I knew.
But to be honest, Windows support and weird corner cases in PyRebel. So
yeah, but like Dino has been fixing that for us. Like what a champion. But any particular one that scares you more?
In PyRebel?
No, in 330 in general.
The free threading and intern strings and garbage collection ones.
Oh, like a
Very
collector.
weird.
Yeah, that's a Sphinx. Sphinx is particularly like how much like twice
that
as long.
one we didn't even get to fix that one yet. So I don't know if we're going to have a performance fix for that one.
Would you be
in
considering reverting any of these things?
Not the incremental GC, which is the root cause for the Sphinx slowdown. But I mean, it's a significant slowdown. But at the same time, I think it's better to release 3.13.0 with a known state where, yeah, some people are affected by bugs and they can't upgrade yet, but other people can test out 3.13. And then we'll have 3.13.1 with those fixes. And if the fixes happen to break people, they can fall back to 3.13.0. And if it fixes it for everyone, that's fine.
Actually, surprise question. What do you think is the problem here? Like, because like we are at our release candidate 2, right? And we are finding these exquisite side effects of some of the changes that have been there for a long time. So what do you think is the problem here? Like, do you think we can do something better from the core team or the steering council to ensure that, because Sphinx, we use Sphinx in the testing suite, right? Like, so we should have at least noticed something like this. So what do you think failed here?
I think it's complicated because it's not really something breaking, it's something taking longer. It's taking significantly longer, and then there's pathological cases where it takes even longer, which I don't think we hit in our build, but you can hit outside of the CPython.
Right.
The problem is we need more test coverage of alphas and betas. But at the same time, we're making breaking changes in alpha and betas that prevent people from testing it.
Right.
So we need to make fewer breaking changes, but then we're making fewer changes, and then there isn't as much to test. So
right.
Do we need to slow down development? We shouldn't. Do we need to slow down breaking changes? Yes, but that comes at a cost, right?
Right. So on a more personal note, this is the things that scares you, but what are the things that you have been particularly working on that, make you smile? What gives you joy? What brings you joy, Thomas? Wow-ters.
None of the things I worked on this week brought me joy,
Oh.
other than my perfectionist and completionist self going over all the changes that other people made in 3.13 or have backports for to 3.13, and also 3.12, because we're doing a 3.12 release as well next week. So
Right.
both of those. It's just clicking the buttons and making sure that everything is right before merging things, getting all the ducks in a row. It's not satisfying. It's just something that needs to be done, and I'm happy to do it until it's Hugo's turn. I'm glad it's Hugo's turn.
It's time. He's starting strong, actually. He has released the PEP for the Steering Council, this non-controversial at all release change.
Yes, he's gonna be the release manager for 12 versions instead of just 2, because it'll be 3.14 up until 3.26, right?
Right. Did you have any particular thing that you wanted to work on this week, even if you have not had a chance to work on it?
I have a change for the test runner to add colors and add not interactive.
I have seen that. That is fantastic, man. Like, I really want this thing.
Yes, I wanted to, and I started work on it last year at the Core Dev Sprint, and I haven't had time to finish it at all. And then, of course, someone added color to the standard library in order for a new REPL to use it. And then I need to integrate it with that, so I need to rewrite
No, but that makes it easier. There is like a class colors that is secret, and like you
but the colors are different, and I'm using them, so I need to change all my
Windows
code.
And they will check the mysterious.
Yeah, but I can't
calls.
use the Windows bits because they do more than we actually need, and it interferes with some of the tests. So it needs to be very selective.
Okay, I see. Well, but like I know for a fact that long ago you actually, this is a surprise question, nothing to do with the sprint, but you used to have like super interesting prototype for changing the garbage collector to like some like DC. No, what is the name of the library?
BOEM GC.
So what's going on with that? Like surprise question. I'm sure you weren't.
I haven't done anything with it because it breaks the API
details.
It breaks extension modules way too much.
Do you think you will resurrect that?
No, probably not. I mean,
maybe
I'd still be interested.
Maybe we can fix the incremental collector with the thing.
So the problem is with GC BOEM, it just searches the whole address space. So it's fine if you just use Python and a couple of extension modules, but if you embed Python, it'll do bad things.
So on the last note, what do you think? What are you personally most excited about 3.13?
I think there's only one thing to really be excited about, which is the REPL.
Ooh, we did it, listeners. You heard it here live in a core.py.
Of course, for me, it's getting rid of 3.13 and handing over the active release manager keys to Hugo is also very exciting.
Yeah, that was very cool. Like, I think I don't know about you, but like Łukasz and myself, we had a small tier the last time we released, an important release for our particular versions, and now we are.
Yeah, the day of the release of Python 3.13 will be the death of Python 3.8. So that means I'm only going to be like one leg in the release manager business now, because there's only 3.9 left for me.
Oof, like that sounds like a very scary future for me as well. So,
You got 2 more years.
Yeah.
You'll be tired of
release
it.
manager is a long chain. Yeah. Cool. So on this positive note, thank you very much for coming.
Thanks for having me.
Okay. I have with me the author of Async and Await in Python, Yury Selivanov. Hi, what have you been working on this week?
Hi, Łukasz. Hi, Pablo. Thank you for having me. I've been nerd sniped into working on asynchronous call graphs for Async.io. This is new API that allows you to introspect the state of Async.io program fully, like to see what the current task is blocked on, if it's awaiting on the future, or like a chain of different asynchronous tasks. and you have an API to capture the graph and post-process it, or you can just print it on the screen. In either way, it should help people a lot with debugging their async programs.
Oh, cool. So that means we're going to be able to see where awaits come from. So who awaits on who?
Exactly. You'll be able to see basically a snapshot of whatever is going on with the current task. So, for example, if you are creating a fast API program, you would be able to see who actually called this HTTP handler, what this HTTP handler is waiting on. Maybe it's blocked on a database or something like that. So you'll be able to see that now.
So why is a regular stack trace not enough to see this with async programs?
So regular stack trace doesn't have any idea about async tasks. So basically, the event loop, what it does, it runs each task sequentially. So if you just print the entire trace back for your program, what you will see the stack trace to your current task, and then the event loop. And after that, that's it. Like there is nothing else to it. In order for us to sort of show you the full call graph, we need to manually sort of stitch all tasks together. So if you start a task group, Async.io has like little low-level API that allows you to sort of tell Async.io, hey, this task is connected to this task, and that task. And with that stitching in mind, we can actually reconstruct the full stack.
Oh, that's very cool. So now, like Tian Gao told us that he's working on async visibility support for PDB. So PDB is going to use that.
This is I think the most incredible thing about this is that Pablo and I designed it in such a way that external debuggers and sampling profilers would be able to access this call graph from outside of the process, and the process would be completely unaware that this is happening. So basically, this allows you to do no downtime or no performance degradation, sampling profiling, and things like this. Debuggers will obviously benefit from this.
Wow. Okay. So not just PDB internally in your process, but also any tool externally, like memory debuggers, like sampling profilers. Wow, that's awesome.
Exactly.
Okay. Cool. So that's what you've been working on this year. But I remember last year you were interested in making sub-interpreters make Async.io faster. So what was that project about, and how is that going?
So yeah, I had a talk at PyCon US about Memhive. This is at this stage it's still an experiment, but I have big plans for it. It's a way to run multiple Python sub-interpreters in the same process, running potentially Async.io event loops, but in reality it can be anything. The most interesting part about it is that I think I figured out a way for them to share data very efficiently. The problem with sub-interpreters right now is that you cannot share a Python object created in one interpreter to another interpreter, because interpreter fully owns it. It owns the ref counting, it owns absolutely everything for this object. But if we actually use immutable data structures, and if we fully control the underlying sort of memory layout, we can actually access the innards of that object and sort of copy data lazily when only when we actually need it. And there are a couple of other tricks. Anybody who is interested in that, they should actually check out my PyCon US talk. It's on YouTube. It should be fairly easy to find it.
Oh, cool. And is that project going to be available on PyPI?
Hopefully, eventually, yes. I need to find some time to debug a few things. And the biggest problem for me right now is actually figuring out the API of this framework, because it's a genuinely new thing, and there is not many projects that I can just copy good ideas from. So I need to come up with my own good ideas. That usually takes time.
Right.
So, I do believe that the most complicated technical kinks have been figured out, and that in the future we will actually be able to build end-to-end scheduling with Async.io without waiting for the free threading to land. Hopefully that will happen within the next several months or maybe a year.
All right, cool. Thanks, Yury.
Thank you so much, Łukasz.
Hey, we are here with the one and only Mark Shannon.
Well, it makes a change from being mentioned to be here to mention you.
Can you say basically what are your highlights of the week?
I never seem to get much work done at these things because it's great to actually meet people in person and talk to people.
So what you have been working on, what would you like to highlight to people listening?
Fixing bugs that people have found for me.
What bugs? Can you tell us something about
the incremental garbage collector is slow in some circumstances, so I've been hacking on that. There's a really awkward bug with the inline values. If there's a dictionary and you destroy the object while leaving its sort of dictionary that points to its internal values, and there's no memory, then that crashed. So
whoops. Any particular thing that you are excited to see in the sprint, or that someone else is working on that you liked?
Well, there's always the cool stuff on the JIT. So,
right. Yeah, you're working on the JIT quite a lot.
I'm not, but I definitely keep a very close eye on it.
Oh, so. Okay. Would you like to appear in the future in a full interview in court?
I'm quite happy with the indirect.
Oh, okay. Well, thank you very much.
Maybe one day.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Mark.
Hello, sir. Can you state your name and say for us what has been the highlight of your week here in Bellevue?
Yeah, my name is Raymond Hettinger. The highlight of my week was getting together with several of the other developers working on the free threading build, and a major obstacle we had was working on how iterators would operate in a free threaded build. What if two threads call next at the same time? And we came up with a very clear plan, which is to add a new iter tool called Serialize that will guarantee consecutive sequential access to iterators, building out the tool iter tools T so that multiple threads can see the same iterator at the same time. And interestingly, those will be the only changes we have to make and not have to touch anything else in the code, which is really nice. Also this week, I began work on the max heap alternative to a minimum heap, fixed a subtle bug in iter tools for a T of a T. And lastly, some minor improvements to the accuracy of kernel density estimation, kernel inverses. So a bunch of little things and one big thing.
All right. Thank you very much, Raymond.
Interview with Keith-Magee. Bump.
Hi, my name's Russell Keith-Magee. I have been for about the last year working on iOS support and also helping with the Android support in CPython. And the support has all landed, which means that CPython itself supports iOS. But now we're kind of looking at what does the future hold? What does 3.14 hold? And I suppose the highlight has really been how receptive the community has been to taking the next step, producing actual binaries and sort of fleshing out what the process of an official iOS release for CPython would mean in the 3.14 timeframe. I guess the secondary one on that is that we've also had a bunch of conversations about Inscripton, which was a Tier 3 platform in 3.12, was dropped in 3.13, mostly due to a lack of sort of someone willing to stand up and support it. But it looks like we might be able to resurrect that and bring it back for 3.14 so that CPython in the browser has a life, has a future in that sort of space.
All right, fantastic. And on that positive note, thanks.
Hi, my name is Mariatta. How are you today?
Oh, we are pretty good. What have you been working on this week?
What I've been working on? So my focus area is in the documentation right now. I'm one of the Python documentation editorial board member. And one of the things I've been thinking about is like, how can we evolve Python documentation? I heard a lot of complaints.
Right, it can always be improved. Right.
Yes, there's always one, like, there are a lot of different things that needs improvement, just that what among all of those hundreds different things people are complaining about, which one do I want to focus on, which one do I care a lot about, and how to make progress to that.
That is extremely important. So can you tell us an example of a thing that like you were like, yeah, this is an issue that I want to tackle?
The one that I've been thinking about this week is that, and I think there will be a lot of haters.
Oh, no. We love controversy on this podcast, so go for it. Go for it, Mariatta.
one of the thing I'm thinking, and I might need to rethink about it. Like, what if we build documentation without restructured text,
Oh.
and or without Sphinx?
Oh, so changing the tool. Like you've been known to make major changes, right? Like the PEP that says we're gonna switch to GitHub and so on and so on.
Yes.
So maybe you need to write another one.
Yeah, I'm still thinking, because I know there are reasons we use Sphinx. There are things Sphinx does really well that other toolings don't do.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but there are other modern features nowadays of like Sphinx. To me, it's a static site generator. It was built for Python
Right.
many years ago, and it hasn't evolved much since then. It was built for one thing, for Python documentation.
Yes.
But the technology of static site generator has evolved outside of the Python world. And I mean, there are other people writing static site generators, like using static site generators, or writing documentation without Sphinx. And right, like other programming languages or whatever. So I'm just thinking, as I just wanted to think, what if we are in 2024 writing a documentation?
Mm-hmm.
What tool do we use?
Right. And is there a tool that you are thinking of? Like, are there any contenders like to replacing Sphinx?
I have two things in mind. I really like Hugo static site generator.
I see.
I've been using it personally for myself, my personal blog, the Python documentation board meetings. We published using Hugo. It has a website. It has RSS feed that people can subscribe, and it's on the browser instead of in markdown file in like, it's like consumable by people.
I see. It's more readable by humans than a restructured text. That's what you're saying.
Yeah.
Wow, cool. So now, like the documentation editorial board, like are they all going to be part of this decision process and so on? Like, what do you think is going to happen?
This is just something I'm still thinking about. I think there might be even documentation group members who disagree. And also, I want to mention there's another tool that I saw. Not the tool itself, but I like the output of it, Astro's documentation.
Oh, I see.
I love how it looks like. It has some quiz you can do right on the documentation. There's a tutorial that guides you through, your learning journey. I love the look of it, like the experience as a learner. But the actual technology, I'm unsure. I think it will not be well received by Python people. It's not even Markdown. It's a brand new.
Oh, interesting.
A brand new markup language. It's like .astro file.
.astro in CPython source code.
Yeah. I mean, so that's what I was talking to some people today. Like, I like the output of it. I know Sphinx doesn't do this.
Right.
How can we get there? What's the path for us to get, to this output that I want? And they get some suggestions. So maybe one of the things that were suggested by the group today is like, maybe just the tutorial of Python. It can be in this kind of format with interaction and stuff.
Right.
Like maybe we will have an official tutorial.python.org with this modern UI, and the rest of the reference docs maybe stays there. And I like that suggestion. So maybe that's something I will.
So more incremental change, right?
Yeah.
So, which does not require us to rewrite everything in one go. Okay, I see. Fascinating. So those are like moonshot ideas for like large scale changes, which I suspect there's gonna be a lot of discussion about.
Yeah.
Like any short-term things that you worked on this week that we can essentially just see for 313 or 314 sooner than that.
Yesterday, I saw some tickets in the daytime that Paul reported. Like he was trying to add hypothesis tests and found some bugs. So I saw the bugs. Some of them, like I helped to not replicate.
Right.
Well, I guess at least I help identify that it doesn't work on Mac OS. So, and then I was looking into like, okay, how can I help? Is this something I can help contribute? So maybe we'll go. I just started looking at the source code of stir format, which is very interesting.
Yeah, very cool. And now with template strings, we're going to grow yet another way to format strings. So your F strings that you really like are going to be now the old way to do this.
Oh, I'm interested. I've been looking at it, paying attention to template strings, the PEP, and I chatted with Jim Baker and Dave yesterday. And I actually, at first, when I read the first PEP that they proposed, I feel like, why do we need? I don't see the need of a new syntax. But after talking to them yesterday, like they explain it more of the application when you have like HTML and SQL. So it's really interesting. I think I'm looking forward. I know they are reworking the PEP. Like they have a brand new proposal idea, like approach to this problem. So I am actually excited. I want to see how it is.
So are we.
Yeah. And one of the reasons I talked to them is like I was giving talk about F strings. So maybe like Guido said, well, next year talk about T strings. All right. Well, I got an assignment from Guido van Rassel.
Cool. And on that positive note, thank you, Mariatta.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Hi there. Can you state your name and say what your highlight of the week was here in Bellevue?
The highlight. Well, my name's Larry Hastings. I was unprepared for this question, so I don't have a highlight ready to go. But it's always delightful spending a week in a room with all my pals in core development. I was asked to say what I've been working on this week, and I have been sort of cleaning up. Like Jelle has more or less implemented 649, and here I come along and say, oh, let's fix this and let's fix that. There are differences of opinion, and the question is whether he's right or I'm right, and so we're sort of settling all of that. It's not antagonistic by any stretch. It's just like, figuring out what the right thing is, and we're figuring it out. And so I guess technically 749.
Right.
I wrote 649, and he wrote 749 as a clarification for 649, and now I'm clarifying him. So
is there going to be an 849?
I doubt it. It would be fun. Sure, but I don't know if we need it. There's not enough left to do. I mean, maybe it could turn out that this is all a catastrophic error, in which case we'll have to write an 849 to fix it. But no, I honestly, I think we're getting it pretty much right the first time. I think we're going to be good. So I'm not worried about it, and it's all working really well. And we're just like, I actually got to code this week. I spent a lot of time like talking to people and things and helping other people get moving forward. But I got to code a minor optimization for memory consumption for 649. So the dunder annotate methods are going to be lazily bound with instead of eagerly binding them at the time that they're assigned. I'm going to leave them as code objects and maybe stick a globals reference if I need it, stick in the closure if I need it. And bind those on demand when somebody asks for it.
Right. So if you count PEP 563 as the first attempt, then 749 is third time's the charm. So do you feel like Python 3.14 is the moment we're actually going to get this new feature?
So dinner last night, I sat next to Jim Baker, who's working on tagged strings. And I realized that is the 5th string interpolation technology in Python. We had percent formatting, then we had stir.template, then we had stir.format, then we had f strings, and now we're adding this tagged string thing. So I'm not making any guarantees that we're done with anything ever, but I don't know. Honestly, if I was a betting man, I would say, no, we're going to figure out something else, or we're going to have to fix that in the future too. But fundamentally, I mean, typing, that's really the thing, is that the poster child for 649, like the reason it exists is for typing. And the needs of typing are evolving really quickly. Typing itself, the module is evolving quickly. The use cases are evolving. We're still figuring a lot of this stuff out. And so it could very well be that we have not anticipated all the needs of the typing guys. I don't use typing myself, so it's hard for me to even predict. Like, I don't even know what they're doing right now, much less what they're going to be doing in the future. So it's hard to predict what the typing needs are going to be in the future. And I could very easily imagine that we're going to need to fix this again. What I tell people, the animating thing for me about doing 649 in the first place, and by the way, in case you're listening and you're like, oh yeah, you haven't memorized the PEP numbers, who has? 649 is, the name of the PEP is Deferred Evaluation of Annotations Through Descriptors, which means that annotations used to be calculated at the time that the object was bound, like the function or the module or the class. We would calculate the annotations right then and make a little dict. And now we are making a little function, and we're calling the function at the time that you say, hi, what are the annotations, please? And by delaying it until the time that somebody asks for it, that gives people time to do all their imports and all that sort of thing. And there's a lot of other tricks now that are in 649 as well. But fundamentally, we're just delaying the evaluation of those things. I forgot where I was going with this. That's 649. That's what the whole thing is.
And on that positive note, thanks, Larry.
Sure.
All right, we have the friendly language uncle for live with us right now. Can you state your name and say what your highlight of the week was?
Yeah, hi. My name is Barry Warsaw. I was mostly writing PEPs this week, or updating PEPs.
Which ones?
Let's see, 694, which is the new Upload 2.0 API to PyPI. I think that one's going to be really cool. It's been around for quite a while, but sort of languished for a bit. And I've been trying to resurrect both the PEP and the existing PR for that. The cool thing about that one is that it's going to allow you to stage releases. So you can create a stage, upload a bunch of wheels to it, and then verify them through a token. So
we've been using test PyPI for this in the past. So how is that better?
I think it will alleviate the need to even, deploy test.pypi.
Nice.
Completely.
Nice.
Because what you'll be able to do is you'll be able to create a stage, upload everything. So let's say you have a dozen wheels, right? You can upload them, and as long as you don't publish the stage, you can still download everything, test it out. If one of the wheels is corrupt, you just re-upload it to the stage, test everything out, and then you make one HTTP request, and that publishes everything. And then all the immutable constraints apply once it's published.
So it's going to be like a form of pre-release where normally people don't see it with pip install, but you can opt into seeing that. How is that going to work?
Yeah, so at least what I'm proposing is that when you create the stage, you can supply a nonce, which is just a random string. And if you don't supply that, it's the empty string, okay? So then PyPI will create a token based on the package name, version, and that nonce. So if you don't include the nonce or you use the empty string, it's easily guessable, right?
I see.
But if you include the string, then the client can decide, I want to make this a little bit more obscure, and then they use that. Then they can share that token with who they want to share it with.
Ah, very interesting. But you said PEPs. So what others?
Yeah, so that's one PEP. There's another PEP that I will be publishing on Monday, and I had this idea for a way to safely externally host wheels.
Right.
Okay, so not packages. Like, we've tried this many times. In fact, early in the cheese shop's existence, it never hosted files at all, right? And I think there was a couple of PEPs, and you can go back and look at the numbers that like it was proposed and then it was retracted. And so what people don't like is the ability to externally host the metadata for packages.
I see.
Right. We have, like pip, for example, has a couple of command line flags that say, oh, by the way, use PyPI, but also use this other external host, right? And that can be vulnerable to dependency confusion attacks sometimes, right? And there's lots of other interesting issues. So the approach that I'm taking with this one is all the metadata still goes to PyPI, and that's still the canonical place. You don't need like -- extra index URL or whatever it is or any of that stuff, right? So you still go to PyPI to find the metadata for a release, the package, the version, list of files and everything. The only difference is that there will be a way to say, oh, don't download the wheel from pythonhosting.org, download it from this other place that I can specify. And I can do it in a way that guarantees through a checksum and a file size that it's the one that you expect it to be, right? So like I can't compromise that external host and then change all the wheels to some malware because then the checksums wouldn't match, right?
Right, okay.
So PyPI still is the canonical definitive location for the metadata, source of truth exactly for the metadata, but we can host the files elsewhere. So that helps there's lots of projects and companies that create very large wheels.
Which companies?
I'm sure that's easily guessable, but it does happen from time to time. And not that it's impossible to get exceptions, but like maybe people don't know, PyPI imposes both a file limitation and a overall project size limitation. And you can get exceptions, but that's more work on the PyPI admins, and there's lots of machinery and policy around that. So this would be a way for any org. So it is a feature that's going to be tied to PyPI org accounts. So if you're an org account, like most people who are just uploading packages will never see those limitations, right? But if you're an org and you're creating big wheels, then you could say, okay, well, I'm an org and I want to host my external wheels over on my own server. I've got my own CDN and I'll handle the infrastructure and everything. The other advantage is that you just need like an HTTP server. You don't need to stand up an entire index.
Right, but historically, I recall that the move to host everything on PyPI was to alleviate the issue where hosts that are external to us being down were causing big dependency issues for other users of PyPI. So, is there going to be like a thing that makes us not vulnerable to the same thing with your PEP right now?
Sort of. Kind of semi true. So one thing, it is tied to org accounts, and the org account will have to register a support URI, like a mail to or issue track or something like that. So then the idea would be that if that external host went down, pip or UV, for example, would be smart enough to say, I couldn't get to the wheel that that's hosted over there.
Right.
Don't bug the PyPI admins. Go bug this other
Fantastic.
URL.
And on that positive note, thank you, Barry.
Sure.
All right. Can you state your name and tell us what you've been working on this week in Bellevue?
Hi, I'm Jelle Zijlstra. I'm a core developer since a couple of years ago. This week I've mostly been working on deferred evaluation of annotations, which is originally Larry Hastings' proposal that he made a couple of years ago. Wasn't able to implement it, so I took it on a few months ago. And now we are trying to put the finishing touches on. Larry is also here this week, and I've been talking to him about some of the details, trying to get everything right. And I think we're in a pretty good state now.
So are you all in agreement how this final state should look like, or is there still some things to work out?
I think we're mostly in agreement. There's might be some small things that Larry still doesn't quite like. He has very demanding standards, but we'll figure it out.
Okay, so are you positive that this is going to land in Python 3.14?
It has already landed in Python 3.14.
Okay, so fantastic. So Alpha 1, we should be able to see the actual future that came and not the future that the future import promised.
Yes, I don't know if you've already talked about this ever, but there's been some confusing future in this future where there was going to be one future, then we delayed the future and eventually canceled the future and went to a different future without a future.
Yeah, it's a very weird timeline. Yes, exactly. But like we might move the future to past. So yeah, like from past import annotations and keep it around. In any case, so with this work with Larry Hastings, do you expect that we will be able to actually just say final, completed, done with Alpha 1, or is this still an ongoing process that needs a lot of work? Like, what do you think the timeline is for this?
So we have something in main that I am pretty happy with. However, we made a new PEP to go over some of the changes. The steering council will have to approve it. It includes a new module, which is a hard sell. So Pablo, you have to decide whether you want this new module.
Yeah, we're looking at Pablo intently right now.
I may or may not be in the team council at the time.
I may submit it before the end of the year. But yeah, that's something we have to figure out. The steering council will have to approve it. They may want something changed. We may want to rename things. We may want to optimize more things. That's the main thing Larry himself has been working on this week. One of the parts of this is that we create a function for every set of annotations. So every annotated function, we create a second function for the annotations internally. Right. And functions have a lot of attributes that are going to be the same for all of these. So we want to make some optimizations for memory usage where we don't actually create the function object until we need it. So we don't have to store that stuff in memory. And there's some other optimizations like that we can make. They should just mostly be hidden from what the users see. It's just making sure we don't waste any memory.
All right, fantastic. And on that positive note, thanks, Jelle.
Thank you.
Hi there. Can you state your name and what you've been doing this week here in Bellevue?
I'm Alex. I work on typing mostly. I work at Astral. And this week I've mainly been doing documentation stuff. But I also spent most of Wednesday tracking down a sizable performance regression.
Oh, in typing?
No. In the garbage collector.
Oh, interesting. So like, have you been able to find what is the reason for it?
So essentially, well, we noticed that the doc test CI job on 3.13 was taking around 10 minutes longer than on the 3.12 branch.
Oh.
So it was taking around 4 minutes on 3.12 and 16 minutes or so on 3.13. So tracking this down, we realized it was because Sphinx is creating a large number of reference cycles. So using the main branch of CPython with changes to the garbage collector we made in 3.13, it seems to be taking a lot longer.
Oh, so will we have to have a specific garbage collector for doc tests now?
Yes. Yeah. It's the only way.
And on that positive note, thanks, Alex. All right, so now I'm outnumbered 2-1, steering council members versus one non-steering council member. Can you state your name and say what you've been working on this week in Bellevue?
Oh, that sounds like a police lineup or something. Gregory P. Smith. I don't know. I go by both, so whatever people want to call me.
So what you're saying, I should change my initial question because it doesn't sound friendly.
I don't know.
What you would say instead?
I honestly have no idea. Like,
right.
You're just trying to interview random people. You got to start with something.
Exactly. So we're gonna improvise. Like we're gonna say, Greg told me not to use any standard, introduction. So we're gonna do something off the wall for the next person around. So there's gonna be a curveball for that person, I guess. But yeah, for our second part of the in question, like. Is there anything in particular that you wanted to share that you've been working on this week?
Oh, this week. I mean, I came with a laundry list of like, I should go back and look at all those weird multiprocessing issues and stuff that are on my plate. Yeah, you always start with a laundry list and then some reason at a sprint, you collect more laundry. So now I have a longer list of things, but I did at least get one thing in. Multiprocessing default start method on platforms like Linux is fork server in 3.14. So
nice.
Somebody will notice. We'll see how bugs happen. But this has been like that deprecation was marked probably in 3.12 to 3.11. So it's time to finally do that.
So is macOS in that list or no?
macOS already switched to Spawn a long time ago, so there's no change there. So maybe people don't notice because they're all using Macs. I have no idea how that works.
Exactly right. Because it started crashing in some version, and then we learned that it wasn't supposed to work on macOS ever.
Yeah, it's awkward. There's situations where it can, but really no one should fork on Mac. That's just a thing.
My personal highlight, selfish highlight, is how you helped us figure out like how terminals work.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, we worked on that. So, it is very surprising how different control characters are being handled. So it was very helpful to have the author of subprocess around for this, the maintainer of subprocess. Is there anything else that you wanted to work on, didn't get to work on, but you will have to work on after you're back in California?
Oh, sure. Actually, since you mentioned subprocess, like one of the lingering things there has always been, no one likes the number of arguments subprocess.run has or .popen has.
Let's add more.
Yeah, exactly. There's one more I want to add, sadly, is where that's going as soon as you say that. Because the greater design of how do we not have this many arguments, I just don't see it ever actually happening. But there's just one common one that would be useful, which off the top of my head, I don't remember right now, but it's always one of those things. It's like, you could write other code that like sticks a little process in between you and your other one that just execs a new thing after making the system calls. It's annoying for a lot of people. So let's just get it in there because it happens. All of these are to remove needs for people to use the horrible pre-exec function thing.
Oh, yes, which sort of works, but it's more like...
Works often, but if you have threads, you're going to bite yourself in various situations. So please just don't use it, except there's still a couple of cases where people find a need to. It's like, I just want to reduce those.
Oh, interesting. Okay, any interesting things that happened on the steering council front that you can share?
That I can share. Lots of good conversations with different people, both as a group, individually. Like, actually, it's like, that's what I love about sprints like this, is that you're really actually able to sync up as a human instead of just random mailing list things where you don't actually have proper expressions of things going on. And communication goes haywire because everyone has different expectations of what things mean. So in person, good.
It's kind of weird how like we have all this technology to communicate in far distances, but still in-person meetings have this magic that, you can find consensus way easier that way. How does that work?
Yeah. I don't know whether any open source community has done this, but even obviously, okay, so we sync up with you, every 2 weeks with like steering council with Devin, your Devin Res role again, like the titles, I forget which one. First one, Primo,
the old
original,
one.
Classic, legacy. I don't know all your other words Pablo's been coming up with. Even if everybody were actually able to sync up in some form of virtual, video, Meet, Zoom, whatever you want to call them, sessions among core devs more often, I think it would help, but I don't know if any open source project actually does that. We've obviously been around a long time. We have a lot of people who don't even think about doing things that way. Time zones are a mess. I don't know how to make that kind of thing happen, but it would probably be helpful. So I guess that's me pitching for, hey, please come use the steering council office hours, whether I'm on the steering council or not, use them. It's more talking to people and talk amongst yourselves in places too.
Where can people find when the steering council office hours are?
Oh, you mean the calendar thing that Google deprecated that no longer works? There is a post on DPO as I start. Discourse. Oh man, not the terms we have for all of these that conflict in my mind that likes first letters only.
It's confusing. There's Discord and discourse.
Yeah. There's a post on there that advertises them. We used to have a little calendar scheduling thing. We need to get a new thing up. But right now, just email us if you want office hours, and we'll make sure you get into a slot sometime in the future.
All right. So email, and then you can schedule an office hour that you need with the steering council.
Yeah, email the steering council, which is, I think, steering-council@500.org.
So we invite you, the listener, to do that if you need to discuss what are the topics that are good for this sort of office hour.
Things the steering council is involved in.
All right. And if
that's very generic.
And if you want to catch the current steering council, there's not much time left because there's going to be elections pretty soon.
I guess that gets triggered after the release that's happening, I think, on Tuesday or something.
So
I remember that poll in the room. When is 3.13 supposed to be released, to see if we actually know that it's happening.
Right. So go schedule that steering council office hour with the current steering council. And on that positive note, thank you, Greg.
Thanks.
Hello, my name is Peter. I'm not exactly sure what I want to say.
Hi there, Petr. what has been the highlight of your week here in Bellevue?
So the highlight was working with Zach Ware on the BuildBot, where he actually SSH to the machine and showed me how it's administered in practice.
All right, very cool. I've seen that the release status page is now enhanced.
Right. Well, not a lot of people see that page, and it's not very pretty right now, but it does have more information.
All right, fantastic. Thanks a lot, Petr.
Thank you.
All right, I'm still outnumbered. Still, the number of steering council members to non-steering council members is 2-1 in this room right now. And Greg told me that my usual introduction and cue for people sounded like police interrogation. So I'm now unsure how to begin. So let the guest drive the conversation right now. Hi, Emily.
Hi, Łukasz.
What have you been working on?
Do I need to introduce myself?
You can introduce yourself. You've been a guest on our podcast. People might know you, but if this is the first episode that they are listening to, yeah, let's have it.
All right. Hi, I'm Emily Morehouse. I'm a steering council member and core developer. And this week, I have been working on some very fun rabbit hole-y PyRepl bugs.
Oh, yes. Are there bugs in PyRepl?
Not really. No, it's perfect. Łukasz actually roped me into fixing a quick little bug. And then, of course, the quick little bug turns into hours of trying to figure out how to write tests for it. And then that also led to just looking at a bunch of PyRepl things. I was finally going back and actually adding some documentation for assignment expressions that never got added to like the help command. Turns out the help command is like wildly out of date. Like all the symbols are wrong and a bunch of stuff. So the fun thing was that I was able to find and hopefully maybe fix some bugs specifically using help in PyRepl. So
that is fascinating. How like the more you touch it, the more you own it. I need to add you to code owners now, essentially, because we cannot do it without you anymore, because you know more about the tests that we just added than we do.
One of us.
Yes, one of us. It was interesting how the tests that we added actually solved another bug we had.
Mm-hmm.
So now there's two bugs in one stone. Yeah, very cool. So like. Any interesting things steering council-wise that happened this week that you can share?
Let's see. I had a list of things to do this week for steering council things, of like updating PEP 12 and some other PEPs and stuff. And of course, those were the only things that I set out to do this week, and the things that did not actually happen. But no, I think that it's always really great to have everyone in person, to be able to have conversations in a very different manner than we typically do, both for the steering council and for the wider community. Just being in person, even for steering council meetings that are typically video calls every week, is just so different. And then being able to really talk to people individually, do breakout groups, all that stuff, I think is really great.
All right, cool. Anything that you know that you wanted to do, you didn't do, and that's the next thing you will have to do when you're back home?
Complex question.
Because I know, like my list of things that I wanted to do here, like only got longer. Like while I'm leaving, we're Friday now, like we're mostly over. So I thought maybe other people also have those sorts of like, there's more things to do than there were on Monday.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think my biggest one is probably getting documentation put together for all of the changes that we are hoping to make with the process for publishing modules on PyPI for like test modules that could possibly go into the standard library. That one feels more temporal and urgent.
All right, cool. And on that positive note, thank you, Emily.
5 minutes later.
He's right. I'm not claiming he's not right. He's right. He's not very
You
sensitive.
entered at a very awkward moment because I just corrected him,
I just want to
the last
be
time.
clear that I know how to mean my defeats. I was wrong. And Łukasz was right. I'm not stubborn.
Okay.
You need to speak very closely.
If you spoke this very closely to the mic, people could actually pick this up. But you said it so far from your insensitive mic that like nobody's gonna know now.
In front of all the listeners of Coral PY, I, Pablo Galindo Salgado, want to claim officially that Łukasz was right and I was wrong, very wrong. I said a stupid thing, which I still think is slightly correct in some way, but but the important thing is like Łukasz was right. This will not be edited in any way. An adulter truth.
All right. Now there came a time where the original instigators of replacing the REPL in Python 3.13 are in one room.
Exactly.
So the density of PyREPL is high. Are all bugs fixed? Let's hear from our guest, Lysandros. Hi.
Hello.
What's the state of PyREPL? Can people use it?
People can use it, yeah.
Should
it's
they
got
use
its
it?
rough edges, but they should use it.
Are you
and
working
I think
on those
they
rough
are
edges,
using
or
it.
what's going on?
I am working on some of those rough edges. I've actually been spending some time on the sprint on those rough edges. It's been going well in some places, a bit worse in others.
Nice. Okay, so what's the biggest win of the week?
The biggest win of the week? I think that we all came together and basically we could spend some time on looking at all those bugs together, figuring out some stuff that we didn't know, and basically fix a few of those bugs. Right before I came here to talk, we actually find out that the fix does not actually fix everything. So there's always things with a PyREPL, yeah. But we'll figure it out.
PyREPL is literal spaghetti in the sense that every time you fix one thing, you find another edge case because terminal emulators, handling with them is just a bag of edge cases.
Yeah, the latest nice thing is what happens if someone overrides their pager environment variable, and how does it play well with everything else.
I have to intercede here as my co-conspirators are very depressing right now. Like PyREPL is awesome, man. Like you can like stupidly like multi-line edit to your death. It's fantastic. And you know what? Like I had this feeling the other day, right? Like this is what I wanted. So you go to this like random machine somewhere in the ether, right? And you compile or you have there Python 3.13. And man, it just tab completes because it never will tab complete because readline is never there, and you get these like bullshit characters when you press like left arrow or Control A. It's like Control A, here you go. It's just fucking useful. And now you get this beautiful prompt always. It's fantastic. Those rough edges, I mean, they're like, it's a bit like, man, like, what is this pager? Like, who changes the pager, right? Like, no, I don't want to hear about it. But like, PyREPL is the future. You heard it from before from Thomas. Best feature of Python 3.13.
All right. So anything in particular that is not PyREPL related that you interacted with on, like worked on and so on, like in Bellevue?
Yeah, actually there were a couple of more things we worked on. One was having discussions about all of the updates on PEP 750, which was actually really nice because
people might not actually follow numbers of PEP.
Okay.
So which one is that?
PEP 750 was called tag string, actually was about tag strings and custom DSLs.
Mm-hmm.
Tag strings are no longer a thing. They're going to be template strings. And that was a few of the updates we're doing that came out of some of the discussions we had prior to the sprint and during the sprint.
Right.
And so, yeah, that was really nice as well, that we all got together, we got into a room and started talking about it and came up with a new version of the PEP that I think is much better.
So regarding this, it's like I actually don't know. This is not like a nice question just to get Lysandros talking. I actually don't know the answer to this. Is the now that we are going for tag strings? Is the like just a special case of F strings for the parser, or like there is a huge new parsing implementation for that?
No, it's using all of the same F-string machinery.
So when we added, because Lysandros was also a co-author of the new F-string formalization that allowed people to use...
What number was that?
It's one between 0 and 1,000.
Correct.
Do you remember?
701.
Man. I always have to think like nobody remembers PEP numbers, man. I mean, I'm embarrassed right now. 701, yes. Syntactic formalization of tag strings.
Correct. of F strings.
Another boring name by by us. So we did like then a bunch of like the implementation then of tag strings, right?
Yeah, and all of that actually is used by tag strings or by template strings, whatever it is. The only thing that we need to add actually to do T strings is just add a new string prefix, and that was it.
Right. Actually, one of the things that listeners kind of like don't know, because most users of Python see only the final result, right? When the thing works and it's fantastic. But one of the things that we would like to always show in CorelPY is how the sausage is made, right? And tag strings have a bunch of the original one, tag strings, right? Like the previous one. You try like to do some interesting hacks around just to see how far you could get it working.
I went into a deep rabbit hole there just to see how we could get basically arbitrary expressions as tags and not just names. And there was I actually had a working implementation of that was just changing how strings are tokenized. And we didn't have string tokens anymore, but yeah.
So from 0 to 10, what is the level of hackiness of that?
9.
You hear it here in CorelPY. But now you get tag strings which are you will maybe
T-strings,
string council, T-strings, like string council modulo the string council decision, but you will see.
So you know how we have R strings? So you can have RB strings, you can have, all those combinations. Will there be FT strings?
No, there won't be FT strings, but there will be RT strings. And there was also a running joke in the team that was implementing tag strings that you could do BLT strings, which would be a bytes lazy template string.
BLT strings.
Yeah.
That sounds good. Yeah, at Facebook we used to joke about how like F strings should have a bytes version because FB strings would be pretty cool to have.
Yeah.
We don't have those.
I don't think we have those.
Actually, we discovered a bug actually, or someone reported a bug to F strings that was there all the time. Do you recall? Like, could you tell the listeners a bit the bug? Is this the thing on the Unicode representation of the bug?
Oh yeah, it's about F strings with a debug symbol when there's an equals sign. We do basically we expand the Unicode character into whatever that Unicode character represents, the Unicode sequence represents in the when we print the expression for the debug. So if you have something like \n greening face equals, then you get greening face emoji equals greening face emoji, and probably
we are still discussing if that is a feature of.
Is it a feature? But yeah,
depending on how hard it's actually to fix, we will maybe elevate it to feature.
Probably a feature.
All right. So, like, if you're involved in T strings, are you gonna be like one of the implementers of that of the PEP?
Yes.
All right. And do you expect, or do you at least like want for this to happen like in Python 3.14?
Yes.
Nice. Okay. So good luck with that. And on that positive note, thanks, Lysandros.
Thank you. Thank you both.
Fancy.
Hi there. Can you state your name and what your highlight of the week here in Bellevue was?
Hello, my name is Dino Viehland. I would say, it doesn't feel like a productive week whenever I'm at the core dev sprints, but the highlight is usually just seeing all sorts of great people and having fun conversations about random things.
Why are you lying, Dino, to our faces? Like, Dino has identified and fixed like strange behavior of PyREPL when it comes to blocking reads, like right here at the sprint.
That was one PR.
Right, one PR, but it's going to make the lives of people on Windows way better.
True. But I have 2 other PRs and they haven't even landed yet. So that's like one thing.
Right, but yes.
I've had a lot more interesting conversations. So.
All right, thanks a lot, Dino.
Thank you.
All right. We have with us Neil Schemenauer from Victoria, British Columbia, a core developer. What have you been working on this week in Bellevue?
Well, first I'd like to thank, I guess it's the PSF for sponsoring the hotel for me here, and my company for basically paying me while I'm here. So I appreciate that I'm able to come and contribute.
Yeah, thank you.
I've been working on a couple different things. So early in the week, I was working on a bug that was affecting Python being embedded into other systems. So the bug report was from a application called WeChat. Tracking down that bug took a lot of time. Building it is not that easy to do, and then it turned out to be a very tricky and difficult bug to trace why it's happening. So I was motivated to fix that because I think Python being embedded into other systems is good, and it's we like programming in Python, so having Python available as a sort of extension language is an important thing.
Right. And now with iOS support, the embedding story is going to be increasingly popular because that's the only way you can really have Python on the iPhone. So thanks for that. Any other things that you were involved with, helped with, saw, anything else that happened in Bellevue this week?
Yeah, so I helped out with some profiling on the Sphinx documentation build. So we noticed that it's gotten slower for some reason, and so I did some profiling to help narrow down what the problem was, and it turns out it's an issue with the new garbage collector. So I think it's just going to take some tweaking to handle that application case a bit better and not have such a slowdown.
But I know for a fact that you have a very cool idea on the possible improvements for the new GC based on some traversal. Can you tell us something about that?
Yeah, so that's kind of a somewhat relevant idea. So in Python 3.13, there's a new style collector coming, which we call the incremental collector. And the motivation for that is we don't want long GC pauses.
Mm-hmm.
Most applications don't care, but some of them do. They don't want the garbage collector to go away and stop your program for hundreds of milliseconds potentially, or even seconds.
Right.
So I had a idea that's kind of relevant to that idea, and my idea was to implement something more like a traditional mark and sweep garbage collector. So the way the Python collector works is a bit unusual in that it, instead of marking things that it knows to be alive, it tries to figure out what's garbage or what's dead. And my little idea was, well, we could use a combination of those techniques. So we first do a pass where we mark everything that we know is alive from the root objects that we know about. And once we do that, which is somewhat faster, you can avoid looking at all of those objects when you do the normal Python collection. So I've implemented a prototype of that, and I've done some profiling of it to see if it's a performance win. It still needs some work yet, but at least the basic idea seems to work. So, yeah.
So there are garbage collectors called mark and sweep collectors. So is that something in that neighborhood?
Yes, it uses this style. So that's like a very old school garbage collector, mark and sweep. You start with root objects, like the objects like your, global variables or something like that. And then you mark everything that's reachable from those objects. The reason we can't do that in Python is we don't know what the root set is. So Python extension modules can have roots and they don't get exposed to the Python runtime. So mark and sweep is not an option for Python. But we can do sort of a limited mark and sweep where we know at least a good set of the objects that are alive, and then we can exclude them from the rest of the
for an
collection.
Optimization, essentially. So,
right.
To skip them. Oh, fascinating. All right. On that positive note, or that possible improvement for, I guess, the 3.14 garbage collector at this point. Thank you, Neil.
Yeah, no problem.
Hi there. Can you state your name and tell us what you've been working on this week in Bellevue?
I'm Carl Meyer. I've been working on fixing bugs in inline comprehensions, which I added. Now I remove them.
You mean the comprehensions or the bugs?
I added the inline comprehensions and the bugs with inlining comprehensions.
So now you're removing the bugs, but you're leaving the inline comprehensions.
That is the idea, yeah.
All right. Okay, we support that. We also support your hockey team. Can you say how many goals you scored in the last game?
2 goals and 1 assist.
Oh, so in the end, your team was victorious.
Yes, we won 8-3, I think.
Nice. What's the name of your team?
High Stakes.
It's the Bellingham High Stakes.
Yes.
Fantastic. This podcast is your biggest fans. Like from now on, we're going to be keeping tabs on how you're doing in your league. So yeah, go High Stakes.
Excellent. Can't wait to see you at the next game.
And on, and on that positive note, thanks, Carl.
Thank you.
Hello, can you state your name and tell us what you've been working on this week in Bellevue?
My name is Eric Smith. This week I have been working mainly on some data class features and bugs that have been accruing on the issue tracker that I normally don't have time to do.
Okay, can you share one of those with us?
Yeah, the most interesting one is probably if you have a data class that where you pass in slots equals true, and you use 0 argument super, it breaks because when you create data classes has to create a new class because it can't assign slots after the fact. So it creates a new class, copies all the methods over, but the methods it copies over, if they reference 0 argument super, they reference the wrong class. They reference the original class, not the new class. So it's actually not just 0 argument super. That's the one people complain about. It's any use of dunder class, which 0 argument super also does.
So a fix is coming.
A fix is coming. It's checked in even.
Nice.
The solution was to go through all of the closures, and if they reference dunder class, change it to be the new class instead of the old class.
Is data classes done? Like, are there any new features you're thinking of adding, like for future versions of Python for 3.13 and
yeah, someone
3.14?
I'm just looking now at a feature request someone had where they wanted to data classes has a function in it called make_data class where you can dynamically create a data class. So if you don't know the list of fields you have in advance, you can specify them on this make_data class function. But it's hardwired to use the data class constructor itself. So the last thing it does is call it data class. It's a very complex function, surprisingly. Right. Last thing it does is call it data class on these parameters it's built up. And PEP, I want to say 681 defines a typing.data class transform, which is how someone else can say, I work just like data classes. So you tell a type checker, I'm as good as a data. You need to do all the special cases you have for data class, also do for me. But there's no way to use make_data class with that new function you've defined.
I see.
So they want to pass in a function to call instead of calling the data class decorator itself. So I think that's a reasonable ask.
Sounds good.
Yeah. So there are a few features like that, but I don't think there's anything dramatic. That's left to be done.
Let's talk dramatic because you're known to really be the heavy hitter of cool features.
Right.
F-strings, data classes, and so on. What's next?
Right. I don't know. I have this fantasy about data classes. A typo I often make is when I'm typing in a data class, I don't say at data class foo. I type data class foo. And I think, well, wouldn't it be cool if that was actually a thing?
It would. And then that data class creation would happen when?
At compile time. It would...
So import times would improve.
Right. So you'd improve import time. You'd only be doing it once when you're compiling the thing. Then when you're importing it, all that work would be done.
I'm sold.
I'm
sold.
Yeah, so I was a couple of years ago, I was playing with something similar where I was having when we were out at Google for the core sprint, I was playing with a source-to-source transform, which would basically do this work, but in a source form. But I didn't get very far on it. Because there's a lot of mechanics. So I would like to see that happen.
Have you heard? F-strings are going to be possibly now the crummy old way to format strings. There's a new contender. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I was talking with Jim Baker about that yesterday, and I've been following it. I think the new version they've come up with is pretty good, where it used to be the original version of that PEP, you supplied a new prefix for strings.
Yes.
But the current version is there's only one prefix. I believe they're calling it T for template strings. And then you can define functions that take template string, regular functions that take template strings. So it doesn't look like a syntactic structure. It just looks like a regular function call taking a T string. I like that version a lot. I think that's pretty cool. I think.
All right. So, but I understand that idea less, because if you had like SQL strings or I don't know, predicate strings and so on, ChatGPT strings, I understand what that does. If you have a new T string, what does that give us?
So the thing, if you had a function called SQL,
yes,
that took as one parameter, its only parameter, a T string,
mm-hmm.
then it would get an object that breaks apart the T string into its multiple pieces. Here are the constant parts. Here are the expression parts.
Right.
And then you could assemble those any way you'd like. You could do the escaping or do the parameterized, whatever you're doing.
So it's less magical.
It's less magical, right? It's more like a regular function, and you could take multiple of them in the same function. You could, since it uses regular function semantics, I think it's way more powerful.
Nice. So it's also not like, it seems like it's not competing with F strings then.
Right. Well, F strings really becomes str of a T string, right? So it logically, you probably wouldn't implement this way because there are various optimizations done specifically for F strings, but
mm-hmm.
F strings logically then just become str of a T string.
Wow.
Who would go through and evaluate the parts and call format on the expressions and then knit it all together and emit the string. So F strings is sort of the special cased version of the more general purpose T string thing.
So this composes pretty well.
Yeah, I think it's pretty cool.
All right.
I'm not convinced I'm for including it in the standard lib
mm-hmm.
or into Python itself. I'm sort of torn. I always make this joke that, like Mark Shannon's hygienic macros,
yes.
PEP, I'm completely for it. It should be part of the language, and I should be the only one allowed to use it because no one else can be trusted to use it correctly.
Because they will do the wrong thing.
They will do the wrong thing. I, however, totally trustworthy.
But like historically, we've been concerned about misuse of features, and it doesn't seem like our users are very eager to misuse features.
Right, yeah.
Is that also your sort of...
It is, I think.
Yeah.
And people are more trustworthy than perhaps I give them credit for.
I just want to say in the record that I fundamentally disagree with Łukasz. Users have been fundamentally misusing all the features. Man, who has seen how hard it was to port the tokenizer to support the new strings? Man, these people.
Right. There's no edge case that hasn't been found. That's definitely true.
These people. It would be so much easier to maintain Python without them, right?
Right.
But then...
But we wouldn't be here.
Yes, we wouldn't be here.
Yeah.
And on that positive note, thank you, Eric.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, we're here with the one and only
Eric Snow.
Awesome. And we are very lucky to be interviewing him because he has been hard working on a lot of things this sprint. Can you talk us just the first one that comes to mind?
First one?
Yes.
Concurrency how-to document.
Whoa. Okay. So tell our listeners, they are not like in core development, so they want to know a bit like what is going on. So
all right. I'll kind of tell you where I'm coming from. I've been working on these sub-interpreters for a long time, and I want to make sure that people know about them and know what they're good for and how to use them. And so I started writing a how-to document for sub-interpreters, but then I thought, well, really, I also want people to be able to compare.
Oh, so it's like a full picture.
Yeah.
So you're including like async IO, processes, threads.
Yep.
Wow, that's going to be a long document.
Yeah. It's going to be pretty
awesome. Big. Man, I thought you were going to jump through like directly into some interpreter stuff. I'm like, no, okay, well, that's cool.
No, I take the view that I'll do the extra work that makes sense for the community. That it's often there's stuff that I don't really care about personally so much, but I know it's important. And so having a good how-to document about how to apply the ideas of concurrency in Python. Somebody comes in, they know about concurrency, they know how to use threads, or they know how to use async in some other language, or they learned about it in school, but they want to know how to do it in Python. And so we haven't really had a good resource like that. So this is kind of that. I want to lead people. I want to say, hey, also here's sub-interpreters, and here's how they fit in just like the others. Here's how you use them. Have some big examples with side-by-side code, that sort of thing. And I want people to get more aware of, because when I ask people about subinterpreters, like maybe they've heard of them, but they have no idea.
I think this is great because like one of the things that like we have seen a lot, especially also during the discussion of the subinterpreter spec and whatnot, is that it's very unclear when subinterpreters are better than threads or processes, and what is the use cases. Like people are used to because there's a lot of literature about this, like threads and processes.
Yep.
But this idea that you can actually have several Pythons in your Python. Like if you know, like it's very easy to visualize once you know the thing, but I'm sure for a lot of listeners it sounds a bit alien, right?
Yeah, it probably still does right at this moment.
Right. So actually, I would like to say that for a lot of the people listening, like we have talked a lot about free threading in the podcast before, so I hope that listeners already know about that. But like some interpreters, like I think we have like not talked as much as we should. So maybe you can mention a bit like what they are. And because like you have been working on this for a long time, and this is as hard or even more in some circumstances that free threading, right? Because like at the beginning it has a lot of challenges with all the global state that you need to clean. So can you explain a bit about like what some interpreters are and like the journey to arrive here?
Yeah. So in 2014 I was talking to somebody who, and I've described this in talks before, but I was talking to somebody whose opinion in the technical world, I respect it a lot. And he started, I asked him about Python, and he said basically Python's a dead language because it doesn't support multi-core parallelism. And it's because of the GIL. It's the same story that everybody tells that really isn't true. And so it was clear in that moment that really we had to do something about fixing Python's multi-core story.
Right.
And so I thought, well, nobody's really doing it. I'm going to see what I can do. So I spent like a year just reading up everything I could, figuring it out, finding what the possible solutions were, what the problems were, really trying to understand this whole space for CPython. And I figured out, the different possible solutions, and really the only one that I thought was viable was subinterpreters. And so if you take each subinterpreter and move the GIL down into each one, and you keep them isolated, then they can run independently in different threads.
When you say move the GIL into each one, is that you have an entirely different copy of the GIL in every of the subinterpreters.
Yep.
Right.
So they don't share anything. They're completely isolated, which means that they can run. There's no thread safety problems between them because they don't share anything, right? So they can run in different threads in parallel, whereas in every aspect, and not just for I/O or whatever, whatever blocking stuff, So with that operation, then you can actually have true multi-core parallelism.
So this sounds like a very clean design with the isolation, but that creates another challenge, which is actually isolating everything doesn't allow you to share anything. So how do you solve that problem?
So then you can step back and say, okay, in a program, you're writing a program like this, and you say, okay, what do I need to share? And you have to be explicit about it. And so we have to have a mechanism for sharing, opting into sharing something, or a mechanism for passing messages between interpreters safely. And that mechanism has to live necessarily in that space between interpreters.
Right. So in Python 3.13, are there any things that subinterpreters can share?
Yeah. So currently we have the machinery that I've set up lets you share a lot of immutable objects.
Right.
So immutable ones that are small, singletons, the built-in singletons, strings, bytes, tuples of any of these objects, and also you can share memory view, which is a mechanism by which you can actually share mutable data if it's in the memory view.
Okay. So that's a good start. But what if you want any sort of structure? Like, what should we do for that particular thing? Like, I don't know. You want a list? You want a dictionary? Like, what would you do then?
So the easiest thing is just pickle it. not super efficient.
Yeah,
so,
but that's what multiprocessing has been doing all this time, right?
So that's one option. That's the main option you have for basically everything else, pickling.
Right.
And there are limitations and there's overhead. So we'll work on finding better solutions in that regard. I think there's a lot that we can do with proxies or with different approaches to memory allocation so that we have memory that can be shared, or making things truly immutable and read-only and not just sort of read-only,
Right, like the sort of immutable mapping idea of Yury's, like with Hive, right?
Yep.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense to me. So now that we are in Python 3.13 and we are using subinterpreters with async.io, like currently we had thread pull executors and process pull executors that spawn the new processes. Like, is there anything happening in that space to actually allow also subinterpreters to be used that way?
Yeah, absolutely. So one thing I've been working on here at the sprint is actually implementing interpreter pool executor.
Wow, nice. So that you would have essentially a truly parallel thread pool executors because they're isolated.
Yep, exactly.
All right.
So then you still have to work around the isolation, and which forces you to be really deliberate about what's getting shared rather than threads
passing,
where everything in the whole program could be shared and you don't know what's going to happen next.
Right. Okay. So it's very cool to see all this development happening. Any other involvements outside of subinterpreters that you were part of this week? Like anything else that you might find like worth highlighting?
A lot of my focus is around that space, but I have been involved in some discussions about what we can do to improve the runtime initialization and finalization right now. And I've a vested interest because I want those things to be faster and more memory efficient for subinterpreters. But in general, and that's the funny thing, a lot of the work that I've done over these years, almost all of it's a good idea anyway. It helps with code health, it helps with performance, all those things. So,
right, because when the main interpreter starts, it only starts once essentially, right? And then it finalizes when you shut down the process. But subinterpreters, like, is that true? You can just start and shut them down like at runtime multiple times, many times. Wow.
Yep. But there's it's basically the same cost to start up the main interpreter, the first one, as for all the subinterpreters. And we should be able to shrink that down to almost nothing. It's just, it's a matter of take the time to do the work.
Oh, very cool. And on that positive note, thank you very much, Eric.
Yeah, glad to be here.
All right.
Wow. I have been subjected to maximal emotional damage. Wow. These people are awesome, man. Jesus.
Yeah. Okay. Wipe the tears. Let's. Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Cool. Yes. So let's get to the actual interviews with core developers that we had. And let me start with the first one who has not yet had the opportunity to actually say what he was working on this week. Pablo.
Yes.
Can you introduce yourself and tell us what the highlight of your week was?
Hello, I'm the janitor.
No, I'm the janitor.
No, I'm the janitor.
No, I'm not.
Okay, we are both the janitor. Oh, I'm the janitor boss.
For two of us.
No, one janitor only, and then the deputy janitor. Okay. No core developer in residence was harmed in the recording of this episode. Okay, yes. I'm Pablo Galindo Salgado. I come from Spain. And I work on recording a podcast and an interview 20 something, right? How many people have we interviewed?
Exactly 20.
20 people across 2 hours and a half or even more.
Right. But you have actually done like extensive coding this week.
Yes, I did extensive coding. So one of the things I started to do is this project. Actually, we have even a name. So dear listeners, I made some mistakes in my life. One of the mistakes I made is to name one of the peps I'm more proud about, the thing that shows you the precise location of error messages. I use the stupidest boring name in the planet, like fine grind error location in traceback. Like that was such a lost opportunity. It's just bullshit. Like I'm reading it and it's boring.
But it's a descriptive name.
Yes.
What's wrong with it?
I don't know, man. It comes from my academia background to describe things. My first paper is like the most boring fucking name on the planet. Like McGee regularization of regular spacetime and blah blah blah. Like this is boring, and this was boring as well. So now Lysandros and Emily and myself, we are going to work on making asserts better, right? So
Right.
the PyTest experience now in CPython native, which is fantastic. And now I'm going to redeem myself finally. We have a proof of concept. We need to just janitor that thing out to hell. But once we clean it up and we submit it to the steering council, hopefully they like what they see. And the rest of the community. But the name of the PEPA list, we have one name already.
All right.
Snazzy asserts. Snazzy assert.
Snazzy.
Yes. Snazzy asserts. This
Wow.
is good shit. Like,
Okay.
So
it is entirely non-descriptive though. That could mean anything.
I don't care. It's just cool asserts, like nice asserts, snazzy asserts. Like, by the way, the idea was credit where credit's due. The idea was Emily's. But I just love it first sight. Snazzy asserts. That's it. Like, if you think we were serious people in core development, we are not. We just lose the opportunity. So I've been working on that prototype. So we is doing the thing. So we had to find something like interesting, because like the part that we are doing to write those asserts is in Python, and if you use asserts in the thing that writes the asserts, then you get asserts over your asserts, and that's kind of not bueno.
Yes.
So that was fun. Then our dear friend Victor Stinner broke perfect integration.
Hi Victor.
Hi Victor. What's up? So Victor merged his PEP changing the configuration API of CPython. Very good work, because
741.
Yes, exactly. We approved it recently, and he merged it. Very good work, because now you can use the embedding story is much better. Like the API is fantastic, but he made a mistake. Okay, so he made one mistake. He changed all the documentation, all the configuration, strings and APIs and whatnot. And the perf integration that I made has one integer, right? So when you say perf integration, the actual thing that stores the configuration is one integer that could be 0, 1, or 2.
Right.
And the type in C of that is an unsigned integer, or uint. And he changed that inadvertently to a Boolean. So now the possible types are
0, 1, and 1.
Yeah. So the bug. So what we saw is that like someone, Diego Russo, actually from ARM.
Yes.
Retain this name. It will be important. Maybe important in the future. So Diego Russo.
Quite possibly.
Yeah. I hope I'm not mispronouncing names here, but like Diego reported this bug that the perf integration test was broken. And then we saw our own billboards, because we actually test things, even if you don't believe it. It was broken, and it was 3 weeks or 4 weeks broken. And the error is just bananas, because like the error is something like, this Python function name was not found in some symbol, like weird output with
like
symbols.
stack trace from perf.
Yeah, exactly. So the error was not perf has not been activated, and therefore this string is missing. The error is like this half work. And the reason is because like perf has 2 modes. One mode when it works for frame pointers, that's the old mode that it uses frame pointers, that is much faster. That should be the actual way to use perf. But the world is a sad place, and then you require this JIT compiler that we talked several times here in the podcast, and that is mode 2. But because Victor Stinner used this military grade like configuration option. Now it's mode 1, which was the old way that should never happen. So now it's half broke. So I found it after 4 hours of investigation.
It was very easy, right? It was only 1,600 lines of a PR.
Yeah, because it was being broken for 3 weeks. So the only chance that you have is to read the entire PR and find the problem. So yes, that was an interesting part. And then I've been working with Yury and Łukasz here.
Yes.
On a new feature that we are very, very, very excited to start working on, which is monitoring for async IO. So right now, you use any profiler or I just know one exception here, which is half there. But anyway, you use any profiler for Python and you have an async IO application, then it's kind of bad experience, because what will happen is that you will get when you snapshot the program, you will get this snapshot of the stack of the program, and the snapshot will only contain the current running task and coroutines, and they even loop above it. But that's not what you want. Normally you have something that is awaiting something, and that something is awaiting something, and then you have like these many other things happening at the same time. So you want to know about those, not just the coroutine stack that is running about right now, because that's how the event loop works.
Right.
So it's kind of bad. So we spend a lot of time like designing this API, and I'm ensuring that also, which is very tricky, that this whole thing is accessible from outside profilers, out of process profilers, like for instance Spy and other things. We have like we have to make some changes on Async.io, and like some of the core structures like generators, coroutines, etc. Yury made a very good work, and we are going to I was supposed to be working on this right now, but we are recording here, so whoops. I suppose I will work on the plane.
Priorities.
Yeah, priorities. But I'm going to work on because we need tests for this, and an example profiler for this thing in the standard library. Obviously, this is not a public API; it's going to be a test, but we need to ensure that it works. So we need a test for this. We have already one for the non-async.io version called test external inspection. So now this is going to be test async external inspection. All the words. But we are very, very excited about this because we think this is going to be the dawn on a new era of async.io introspection.
Yeah, the visibility of what is going on is going to be much better from now on.
Right. So yeah, that was one of the big things, and I was having a lot of discussions about this GC stuff with Linnell and Mark and many people. So that was the highlight of my week, apart from meeting people. What about you, Łukasz?
Well, I spent time with Emily and Lysandros on identifying and fixing some of the edge cases. Oh, and Dino, like PyREPL edge cases on different platforms and in different circumstances. I know more about how terminal emulators work than I knew on Monday morning. So there's a few things that I know more about than I would like now, actually. So, kind of all of this sort of how standard input is being passed to processes, but, there's actually two inputs because the PTS dev PTS input is separate and so on, and how control characters like F1 and F2 work and how they are passed.
You know what they say, right? When you look enough times to the void gazes at you back. No, you become the void domain expert.
Yeah. So okay, I could write that now. Like, and the world probably is easier now in that term, like than it was 20 years ago, because there's way fewer terminal emulators that we actually have to take, care about. So yeah, I spent a decent time on that. I was part of the kind of ideas, discussions, and planning for the async.io monitoring, even though most of the coding so far has been done by Yury, where like this entire infrastructure is being prepared to be externally visible from a process that is not Python so that profilers can use it. But soon enough, we're going to reach a moment where those things need to be added to, like, say, the async.io REPL. So I'm very excited to be actually working on that so that it is much more visible to the end user what we're doing right now. And then there were some very, very nice discussions with core developers about sometimes difficult topics like code of conduct and so on. So I was part of that. This is where actually being in person makes a lot of sense, because those sensitive topics somehow are still easier to cover, easier to discuss in person. So we did a bunch of that. I destroyed my heels using the wrong boots and walking too much. But
and we made you walk just 7.5 kilometers the other day. So
yeah,
no
but that's
problem.
after a few days. So that was a good test to actually see that my feet are in fact recovering. We are now at a stage where I can walk again. So we're good. Yes. So this was a very productive week. I also started but did not finish because priorities in terms of recording this podcast. But I started and need to finish before Tuesday the PEP for
PyREPL.
Yes. Informational PEP.
Informational best
PEP.
kind. Yeah. Informational. Well, that was a lot of people, but we think that this was a very important thing, and we are super proud, and that we are super lucky to be able to record so many people here and so many projects. Like I hope that you can see here that CPython is not made by some people in a dark room, right? Like all of these people have like projects, and this is how actually this happens. Like lots of discussions, lots of projects, and you can see lots of these people are working together. And this is just a small section of the core developers that were here, and the core developers that were here on the last day of the sprint, because half of them, unfortunately, they were not here.
We did not want to be too disruptive and interview people across the entire week, but it turns out not everybody stayed until Friday. And from the people who did, not everybody was like, I don't actually want to talk to you. And we totally respect that. We have you noted on our little notebook of we're going to remember this forever. No, I'm kidding. Obviously, like this silly podcast is in no way on an official communication channel, and we understand that it's just a fun thing that some people might feel and some other people might not consider fun. So you've heard from 20 people and then the two of us, so that's more than enough to actually get the understanding of how big of an effort an event like this is. And it's kind of a big deal because we are from multiple continents, multiple ethnicities, genders, religions, and so on and so on. So actually gathering everybody in the same room, extremely important. Right.
So one last thing. Since this is 1 year of Core PY, we would like to also thank you, all of you that are on the other side of this, that have been with us.
Yes, very much. Each one of you 17 listeners that we have is very valued by us.
Right. But thank you very much for all
you.
the nice comments and to say hello at conferences and whatnot.
Right. And in 2 weeks, back to our regular programming from far away, where I'm going to be in Poland and this other guy is going to be in London with additional latency. Now we're in the same room, so the vibe is different. It is different to be in person.
Right.
All right.
Until the next time.
See you later.
See you later.